Hey everyone, welcome to our ultimate in-depth guide for Vex, the Gloomist. This guide is brought to you by Top 1 Vex himself, so this guide will definitely include everything about Vex, and of course secret tips and tricks scattered throughout the video, so make sure to watch the whole thing. We promise it will be worth it. Although if you are looking for specific information, feel free to check the timestamps to jump to what you are looking for. We will be going through abilities and secrets, skill path, strengths and weaknesses, combos, summoners, runes, itemization, enchantments, when to pick Vex, and matchups in general, and finally some tips and tricks. Without further ado, let us start by explaining how our abilities work. The passive, Doom and Gloom. When this bar is red, Vex abilities switch from purple to green, and fears enemies and interrupts dashes. This ability cooldown cannot be reduced by ability haste. Instead, hitting Gloom champions reduces it by 25%, and non-champion targets reduce it by 10%. Nearby enemies are marked with Gloom for 6 seconds, whenever they dash or blink or hit with third ability. You can consume the marks by first or second ability, or by an auto attack, so the ultimate and third ability do not consume marks. Consuming a mark deals additional damage and reduces the fear cooldown as explained. This passive is what makes Vex so broken because it has no cooldown at all, so it depends on how fast you can consume the marks before they overlap. I mean, look at this damage, with 2 items and consuming marks with only auto attacks, and before you say no one dashes this slow in a real game, this is just to demonstrate Vex marking power. That said, using abilities with auto attacking you will be able to consume all marks easily. Here are some secrets about Vex passive. Consuming a mark with an auto attack is considered an empowered attack, so it can trigger the Infinity Orb passive. Although you probably knew that, but did you know that Vex can consume marks with an auto attack in front of Wind Wall Yasuo? Also, if you cast an auto attack and before it hits the target dashes or blinks, it will transform into an empowered attack consuming Gloom. Finally, the higher Vex level is, the faster the fear passive recharges and fears enemies for a longer duration, and consuming marks deal more damage. Fun fact, Vex becomes afflicted with Doom when she can fear, that's where the passive name Doom and Gloom came from. The first ability, Mistral Bolt. Vex launches a wave and in the middle of the distance, it becomes faster and smaller. Upgrading this ability lowers the cooldown and increases base damage, but also increases mana cost. The second ability, Personal Space. Vex gains a shield for 2.5 seconds and deals magic damage to nearby enemies. Upgrading this ability lowers the cooldown and increases both base damage and shield value. The third ability, Looming Darkness. Throws a circle that deals magic damage and slows enemies for 2 seconds. The circle size increases the further you cast it. Upgrading this ability increases base damage and AP ratio, and slows enemies more, while costing more mana. Like we said earlier, this ability doesn't consume marks, instead, it applies them, so if you want to reduce the passive cooldown, hit it on many enemies as possible. Some secrets about this ability. Fearing enemies with this ability move them away from the center of the circle rather than from Vex, so you can use it to move enemies to turret range for example, instead of doing this. It can temporarily provide vision. Also, keep in mind Yasuo Wind Wall can block this ability somehow. The ultimate, Shadow Surge. Launches a shadow dealing magic damage and marking the enemy for 4 seconds, recast, to dash to the marked champion dealing more damage on arrival. If the marked champion dies within 6 seconds upon marking, its cooldown is temporarily reset. Upgrading this ability lowers the cooldown, and increases both marking damage and on arrival damage, also increasing its range. Some secrets about this ability. Marking enemies with this ability provides vision on them. But be careful because the shadow is keeping an eye on you, as you notice he is tracking my direction. Also, while dashing you can take damage, so it's not a good idea to recast it if you are low on health, because you would probably die mid-air. And you cannot use your abilities while dashing, although you can use stasis or flash, but flashing cancels the dash of course. If you like this guide so far, hit the like button, this really helps us to make more videos like this. You might ask, which skill to unlock and upgrade first then? Always unlock E first, but be careful if you are against Lucian or Ixen because if they unlock D first, once you E they can also E to dodge it and damage you, putting you in a very bad position. Of course you have no way of knowing that unless they use other skills, so here's what you should do, play safe until you know, if they unlock Q or W that's your cue to play aggressive, or wait for them to use their E then cast yours. On level 2 unlock W if you are against melee champions, otherwise, unlock Q. So the skill path will be always E on level 1, levels 2 and 3 depending on the matchup as we explained, after that max Q first, and you have the option between W and E depending on your playstyle. W for bigger shield so you would be harder to kill, and E for more damage, although personally these days I always upgrade E after Q, and W last, because I'm more of an aggressive person. Okay, but how does this kit make Vex one of the best AP champions on the Rift? Let's talk about Vex strengths and weaknesses. So Vex strengths. Number 1, massive one-shot potential. Vex can burst squishy champions from 100 to 0 in a second, literally. Not only that but also with no way of escaping her, because of her ultimate and fear. Number 2, poke and AoE. Vex has a decent range with a huge area of effect, so hitting one massive E with fear followed by Q, consider the fight is over. But like all champions, Vex isn't perfect and has some weaknesses too. The biggest weakness is that Vex kit is very skillshot reliant. If you are unable to hit your E and Q, you will have a hard time playing the game, but combos like Flash W with fear can help you hit your abilities. Second weakness is vulnerable positioning. If you get caught by a stun you probably end up dead, so items like Stasis and Banshee's Veil are a must, more on that in a bit. Also if you don't have Doom Fear ready you really need to play safe, because you have no way of disengaging other than that. Alright, let's talk about the good stuff now. Combos. These are the most important combos you need to know about. Flash combos. You can flash combo with Q or ultimate. Basically, you cast your Q or ultimate and flash immediately. This combo is very useful if you want to change the direction of the skill or extend its range. Now let's start with pre-5 combos. Level 1 combo. E, auto attack before it explodes, and auto attack again. This combo deals a lot of damage in the early game with the help of electrocute. Safe poke combo. E, Q. With the help of the fear and slow from the E, you will be able to hit your Q much easier. Just remember to aim your Q where they will be moving after being feared, or once they are feared cast it auto. This will guarantee a hit as long they don't dash. Also if your opponent is not so far away you can follow up with an auto attack to activate the electrocute for a nice chunk of damage. Close trade, all in combo. If your Doom passive is ready, fear with W, and follow up with E, Q, auto attack. This is the most guaranteed way to fear your opponent and hit your skill shots. Ultimate combos. Long range combo. R, second R, W, E, Q, auto attack. You will need to use fear on W most of the time, as this is the most instant way of fearing your enemies, so while dashing spam W and follow up immediately with Q and E. Close range combo. W, E, Q, R, second R, auto attack. This combo is perfect when you want to one-shot your opponent in a second, literally. Also, you can wait before recasting the ultimate. If your target still needs one ability to finish him off, and you have enough ability haste you will be able to cast another Q or E, before the second ultimate finish. We won't want to bore you with a trillion Vex combo, so these should be enough for you to know your way around. Unless it's not, then let us know in the comments. If you find this content helpful, consider subscribing and hit the bell icon, so you don't miss our upcoming guides like this one. Okay, now you know everything about Vex, but what summoners, runes, and items should you get? Note, the following recommendations are for patch 4.1a, so if you are watching this on a later patch, things might be very different. For the summoners, you should always take Flash and Ignite if you are confident, otherwise consider Exhaust against high burst champions like Zed and Jace. Regarding runes, use Electrocute always. For the domination tree, personally, I always use Gathering Storm, but you can go for weakness for more early game damage when immobilizing enemies, or Giant Slayer if the enemies have a lot of health. For the resolve tree, it's either bone plating or nullifying orb depending on what you prefer. Most of the time I use bone plating. For the inspiration tree, always use Hunter Genius. Alright, now, which item should you get? This can be very situational, but there are 3 core items you will get in every single game, which are Laden's Echo, Infinity Orb, and Rabadon's Death Cap. Just buy Prophet's Pendant after Laden's Echo, and then get Rabadon's Death Cap after that. Upgrade the pendant to Infinity Orb. After buying the core items, you have a lot of options to choose from. Let's go through them all for you to figure out the best options for your game. The mid-tier component Oblivion Orb. I don't like the idea of getting anti-heal on Assassin AP champions, but if you are against champions like Soraka and Nami, and no one in your team has anti-heal, you have to get it unfortunately, and upgrade it last item. Get Void Staff if the enemy team has a lot of magic resistance. Banshee's Veil is a must-buy if you are against CC champions like Ari and Zoe. Crystalline Reflector helps you to stay alive if you are struggling against AD Assassins champions. Awakened Soulstealer is a great ability haste item, especially to reduce your ultimate cooldown, so if you need your ultimate a lot, this is the item you are looking for. Horizon Focus is another great item if you want to maximize your damage output, as it deals bonus damage after applying 3 marks on enemies. This effect has no cooldown, and you can apply 2 marks by immobilizing them, or 1 mark when you damage them with a non-targeted ability from 500 units away. Riftmaker for more health and sustain in team fights and extra damage. Also, some people like Cosmic Drive for more mobility, but I don't recommend it. For boots, always take Ionian Boots of Lucidity and upgrade it after 2nd or 3rd item to Stasis Enchant. So the final build should look like this, and like we said, last 2 items depend on your game. Now you know all about Vex, but is it always good to pick her? Definitely yes, but playing against a lot of CC can be a nightmare, although any champion struggles against CC, so just play from a safe distance and don't engage first with ultimate. Instead, use it as a clean-up tool after team fights. On the other hand, she really shines against melee champions like Echo and Akali. Against these matchups she can dominate the lane and snowball the game very easily. If you are curious about how you should play the laning phase, or mid to late game, check out our playlist in the description for full Vex gameplays. Unfortunately, it only includes Vex mid, but you can totally play it in any role, except jungle of course. Alright, let's finish this video with some professional tips and tricks that will help you to play Vex even better. Always take advantage of your strong level 1. If you are able to hit your E every time, I assure you, you will get first blood by level 3. If your opponent can easily engage on you, the only thing that can stop them is your fear, so if you don't have it, never walk up, especially against champions like Zed and Akali. Always try to play around vision. Before objectives, hide in bushes, but make sure they are not warded, and just wait for the enemy to come to you blindly. If you are able to do this before every objective, I guarantee you, you will win the game with minimum effort. If you hit your ultimate, doesn't mean you have to go. First think about your next move, if they have stasis or flash, or will you be stunned immediately and die upon arrival, so think about your backup plans. Do you have flash or stasis to escape or buy time for your team to help you? If you know the enemies will stun you upon dashing to them by the 2nd R, you can use stasis just right before arriving to dodge their CC, or you can also flash to reposition. Fearing with W is really hard to predict and almost impossible to avoid, so if you are struggling to hit your E, try the flash W combo, but only use this combo if you are sure that you will kill your target. You can actually cast E right after Q, and the Q will hit the enemy after the E, enabling the Q to consume gloom and deal more damage. But this is only possible if you hit the target with the tip of the Q, so probably the only situation you're gonna use this combo is when stealing objectives. If this guide was helpful to you, hit the like button so you can help us too, and subscribe so you don't miss our upcoming guides like this one. Also, check out this insane Vex gameplay, or if you are interested, watch our Riven guide right here. Thanks for watching, hope to see you at the next one.